Imagine two men hired to build a stone wall. The first man is ambitious. He looks at the pile of small rocks in the yard and he laughs. Small rocks build small walls. He wants a great wall, the kind people photograph. So he goes looking for the perfect stone, a boulder, something enormous, something worthy. He spends the first month searching the hillside. He spends the second month negotiating for a cart big enough to carry one. He spends the third month waiting for the cart. He talks about the wall constantly. He describes it to his neighbors in beautiful detail. Every evening he goes home, and the ground where the wall should be is flat, empty dirt. The second man is not ambitious. He is boring. Every morning before work, he picks up one stone from the pile, walks 15 steps, and sets it down. One stone. It takes him 90 seconds. Then he goes to his job and forgets about it entirely. He does not photograph it. He does not describe it to anyone, because there is nothing to describe. On day 30, the wall is ankle height, and it looks pathetic. On day 200, it is at his waist. On day 1000, it is over his head, and the man with the boulder is still standing, next to an empty patch of dirt, explaining why the timing was never right. The Japanese have a word for the second man's method, Tsumitate. It means, roughly, to pile up, to accumulate by stacking, not to strike gold, not to catch the wave, not to time anything, to stack. Set a small amount aside on a fixed schedule, and let the schedule do the thinking so you do not have to. That is the whole method, and it is the reason Japan has one of the deepest household savings cultures on the planet, sitting on roughly 2,000 trillion yen in household financial assets, more than half of it in plain, unglamorous cash and bank deposits, not stocks people brag about. Deposits, stacked stones. Before we go on, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. We love seeing how far this story travels. And if you're loving it so far, join the family by hitting subscribe, because tomorrow, we've got something special lined up just for you. Today, we are going to look at how an entire country turned saving into something that happens whether you feel like it or not, and why that is the actual reason so few Japanese workers arrive at 65 with nothing. Let us be honest about what happens in your life every month. You get paid, you look at the number, you tell yourself that this month is going to be different. You are going to save. You are going to be responsible. You even pick an amount, $500, let us say. That is your promise to yourself, and you make it sincerely, standing in your kitchen, feeling like an adult. Then the month happens to you. A friend has a birthday. Your car makes a noise. There is a sale. You are tired on a Wednesday, and cooking feels impossible. Your subscription renews, and you meant to cancel it, but you did not. Each of these is small, defensible, and entirely reasonable, and you can explain every single one out loud without embarrassment. On the 28th, you check your balance, and there is $112 left, so you save nothing, and you promise again. Here is what you have discovered without realizing it. You are trying to save with the part of your brain that gets tired. Willpower is not a savings account. Willpower is a battery, and it drains all day long. On your commute, in meetings, in arguments, in traffic, in the supermarket at 7 in the evening when you are hungry. By the time saving needs willpower, there is none left. The Japanese solution is not to build stronger willpower. It is to remove willpower from the equation entirely. In 1971, Japan passed a law that most people outside the country have never heard of. It created a system called zaikei chochiku, the workers' asset formation savings system. The mechanics are almost insultingly simple. Your employer takes a set amount out of your pay before it reaches your bank account and puts it into a savings account in your name. You do not transfer it. You do not approve it. You do not have a moment where the money sits in your hand and looks at you. That is the entire innovation. The money never touches your palm. Millions of Japanese workers signed up, and generations of them saved substantial sums without ever once experiencing the sensation of choosing to save. Ask them how they did it, and many will shrug, because from the inside, it felt like nothing. It felt like having a slightly smaller salary. And that is the trick. Your brain adjusts to your paycheck within about 2 months, no matter what it is. If you get a raise, your lifestyle expands to eat it. And you know this because you have already had raises and you are not richer. The reverse is also true. Take 5% out before it arrives, and your brain simply recalibrates. You feel mildly poorer for 8 weeks, and then you feel normal again. The pain of saving is not caused by having less money. It is caused by watching it leave. Zaikei made the leaving invisible. There is a second structure that quietly builds Japanese wealth, and Western workers mostly do not have it. Twice a year, in summer and again in winter, most Japanese full-time employees receive a bonus, not a small holiday gesture. Often it is worth 1, 2, sometimes 3 or more months of salary in a single payment. Now, if you received 3 months of salary at once, what would happen? Be honest. You know exactly what would happen. The money would arrive, you would feel wealthy for approximately 11 days, and you would end up with a nicer television and a story about a weekend trip. In Japan, a large portion of that bonus is routinely routed into savings before it is ever spendable. The winter bonus is famously a savings event, not a spending event. It arrives, it gets sorted, and a chunk of it vanishes into the pile. Why does this work when it would not work for you? Because it is expected. It is what your father did, what your co-workers do, what the bank literally advertises in the window in December. Culture is just peer pressure with better manners, and Japan aimed that pressure at saving instead of consumption. You do not have a bonus culture, but you do have moments when unusual money arrives. A tax refund, a side job payment, a gift, a month with 3 paychecks instead of 2. And every single time, that money enters your life with no plan attached to it, which means it has already been spent. Unplanned money is spent money. It just has not happened yet. Here is where the idea grows beyond a savings account. In January of 2018, Japan launched something called Tsumitate NISA. It was a tax-advantaged investment account with one very deliberate design choice. You could not use it to gamble. You could not day trade in it. The structure pushed you toward regular, scheduled contributions into a limited menu of low-cost, diversified funds, held for a long window, with the growth untaxed. The government essentially built a device for boring people, and then asked the whole country to become boring. In 2024, it was expanded and made permanent under a new NISA framework, with much larger limits, and the accumulation component kept its name and its philosophy. Put in a fixed amount every month. Do not touch it. That is it. That is the product. Notice what is missing. There is no prediction. There is no market view. There is no clever moment. The entire design assumes you have no idea what is going to happen, because you do not, and neither does anyone selling you the opposite claim. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. When you invest the same amount of money every month, something quietly useful happens to you. Some months, prices are high. Your fixed amount buys fewer units. You feel briefly annoyed. Some months, prices have fallen. Everyone on the internet is panicking. Headlines use words like plunge and turmoil. And your automatic transfer, which does not read headlines, buys more units at a discount, because that is all it knows how to do. Over years, this means you accumulate more of the thing when it is cheap and less of it when it is expensive, which is the behavior every investor claims to want and almost none can actually execute, because executing it requires buying while afraid. The Japanese call this doru kosuto heikinho, dollar cost averaging. It is not magic. It does not guarantee profit. It will not save you from a bad decade or a bad fund. What it does is remove the one variable that ruins most people, which is you, on a Tuesday, feeling something. A machine does not feel anything on Tuesday. That is its entire advantage. Now we arrive at the part nobody makes videos about, because it is unwatchable. You set up your automatic transfer. Congratulations. You are now going to experience the most tedious stretch of your financial life. Year 1, you have saved a modest amount, and it is genuinely unimpressive. You could have earned the same by working a few extra shifts. Year 2, it is bigger and still unimpressive. Year 3, you check the balance, feel a small flicker of pride, then remember what a car costs, and the flicker dies. This is the stage that kills people, not a crash. Not a job loss, boredom. Somewhere in year 3 or 4, a voice arrives, and it is very reasonable. It says, "This is too slow." It says, "You are being conservative and everyone else is doing better." It says, "Imagine if you had put this into the thing your cousin talked about at the wedding." That voice has ended more retirements than any recession in history, because the mathematics of accumulation are backloaded. Cruel, but backloaded. The first years are almost entirely your own contributions, dull and linear, one stone at a time. The growth is a rounding error. Then somewhere in the second decade, the returns start contributing more than you do, and the curve, which has been lying flat like a dead thing, starts to bend upward. The wall is at your waist for a very long time. Then one morning it is over your head. If you have ever quit something in exactly this phase, say the word here in the comments, because I want to know how many of us there are. Let us do some rough arithmetic, and I want to be clear that these are illustrative numbers, not a promise, because nobody can promise you a rate of return. Say you set aside $300 a month. Not heroic. That is one meal delivery habit and one forgotten subscription bundle. Over 30 years, you personally will have contributed $108,000. That is your labor, stacked. At a modest long-run growth rate, that same stack ends up somewhere in the range of 2 to 3 times what you put in, because the money you saved in year 2 has been working for 28 years, and the money you saved in year 28 has been working for 2, which brings us to the sentence that should genuinely bother you. The most valuable dollars in your entire life are the ones you save this year, because they have the most time to work, and they are also the dollars you are most likely to spend, because you are young, or broke, or convinced you will start later. Time is the only ingredient in this recipe that you cannot buy more of afterward. Everything else is negotiable. There are 3 habits underneath all of this, and none of them require a Japanese passport. The first is that the amount is small enough to be survivable. This is not a minor detail. People fail at saving the same way they fail at diets, by starting at an intensity they cannot maintain. If you commit to saving 40% of your income out of guilt, you will succeed for 2 months, resent it, quit, and then spend a bonus month undoing all of it. A person saving 3% for 30 years destroys a person saving 40% for 6 weeks. Boring beats intense. It always has. The second is that it is automated, so no decision is ever made. A decision is a place where your life can leak. Remove the decision, and you remove the leak. The third is the one that actually separates people, and it is this: they do not touch it. The money moves into a place that is slightly annoying to reach. A different institution, a different account, something with paperwork attached. Japanese savers are famous for keeping enormous sums in low-yielding deposits, and economists have criticized this for decades as overly cautious. But look at the behavior underneath the criticism. That money did not get raided. Not for a wedding, not for a renovation, not for a very good opportunity that a colleague described enthusiastically at dinner. Access is the enemy of accumulation. If you can move your savings to your checking account in 4 seconds with your thumb, you do not have savings. You have a delay. I am not going to tell you every Japanese retiree is comfortable, because that would be a lie and you would eventually find out. Japan has an aging population, a shrinking workforce, and pension pressure that gets debated seriously every few years. There are elderly Japanese people who struggle. And elder poverty there is a real subject, not a rumor. Decades of very low interest rates also meant that cautious savers were rewarded far less than they deserved for their discipline. So the claim is not that the system produces guaranteed comfort. The claim is narrower and more useful to you. It is that a society which made saving automatic, cultural, early, and difficult to reverse ends up with far fewer people arriving at the end of their working life having accumulated nothing at all, not because they were smarter, not because they earned more, because the default setting was different. You are not competing against Japanese discipline. You are competing against your own default setting, which currently is spend everything, and which was chosen for you by people who profit from it. Go back to the wall for a second. The man with the boulder was not lazy. That is what people get wrong. He worked harder than the other man. He searched hillsides. He negotiated. He planned. He cared enormously about the wall. He simply believed that the size of the first move determined the size of the result, and he was wrong, and the wrongness cost him 3 years. You are probably doing the same thing with money right now. You are waiting to earn more before you begin. You are waiting until the debt is gone, until the job stabilizes, until you understand investing properly, until January. And all of that waiting feels responsible. It feels like preparation. It is not preparation. It is an empty patch of dirt with a very good explanation standing next to it. Tsumitate does not ask you to be impressive. It asks you to be unimpressive on schedule, for a very long time, which is harder, and which nobody will ever compliment you for. So here is your mission, and I want it done this week, not this year. Open your banking app tonight and set up one automatic transfer, not a plan, not a spreadsheet. One transfer, dated for the day after you get paid, going somewhere that takes more than one tap to reach. And make the amount embarrassingly small, small enough that you feel almost insulted by it. $20, $40. Whatever number is so low that you cannot construct an excuse against it, because you are not trying to get rich this month. You are trying to lay one stone and prove to yourself that stones can be laid. Then leave it alone for 1 year and do not check it more than 4 times. Now tell me in the comments, what is the number you set? Write it down. 20, 50, 100, whatever it is. Say it publicly, because a promise you make out loud to strangers survives longer than a promise you make in your kitchen. And if you are already doing this, and you are somewhere in the boring middle years, say how long you have been going, because somebody reading needs to see that the flat part ends. 1 stone, 15 steps, 90 seconds. Then go to work and forget about it. That's our story. If you enjoyed it, hit like, subscribe, and turn on the bell. And tomorrow, more stories are waiting for you. Thanks for watching.